here we go.
I'm ready to win some money.
You say that, but all right. Cut him for me, please.
No. Cut him? All right. You go. Look at me cut the cards, man.
Look, you got
Come on. Big slick, baby.
On to the next one.
All right.
See what we can do, fellas.
Come on, brother.
You know the rules. 50 minimum.
Give me something.
What you mean give you something? He gonna give me.
Yeah,
I cut the cards, bro. Give me my props.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right. It's your bet, sir. Oh, it's actually his bet.
Right
Actually,
there,
you're
Mr.
right.
J.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on you.
All right, 50. Let's do it. 50 strong. In fact, let me do another 50. How about that?
Strong.
So I
Oh, see, you didn't help me out anyway. Just not even.
Hey, man. I don't do that with the cards. I make it do what it do. Okay, so observe, investigate. On to the next one.
And investigate, you need one more of those if you want to stay in.
Oh, we're going to do that again.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I observed you was trying to get out for free, bro.
Somebody else got.
Oh, so that's another 50?
Oh.
Another 50 it is.
Give it up.
There we go.
All right,
Burn it, turn it.
I can take care of that.
Okay, go ahead.
Do
Go ahead.
it,
I've already
man,
burned
you
it. You
know.
just go ahead and turn it, bro. Turn something good now.
Turned. Ooh, look at that. Come on, y'all gotta do something with this.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
My bet.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and throw all these in here.
You playing over here. Oop.
Yeah.
Too
you can
hot
have
for my
all that.
blood.
There you go, brother.
Yeah.
There you go. What do you got to say about
It
that?
was worth it.
Anticlimactic, I guess.
It was worth it. He went to Jared.
So, we've been here talking about these different skill sets, if you will, that working professionals like us need in the world of entertainment production. Observe, investigate. And so with the next one, application, it really requires taking those first two steps before you can get to the application stage. And when we say application, of course, we mean being able to say, okay, I assess the situation, I see what's going on. Now, how can I, wait for it, change the game? That old overused phrase that we always hear, especially in the world of video production and photography. Every company wants to come out with their game changer. Software is the same thing. And, I really see some of these companies who have been in the arena for a little bit. One that comes to mind, Blackmagic Design. I've been really enjoying the Blackmagic camera, but it's when you see generation 2, generation 3 of the camera that you're like, okay, they're starting to learn their lesson. They're starting to see, okay, here's some of the pitfalls, here's some of the things. But it's really, you can't come into a particular arena and be a game changer without first seeing what the industry is doing. And I think it's the same thing as a working professional. You can't come in and say, okay, I've seen certain things, for instance, as a broadcast filmmaker, broadcast media producer, and I wanted to come in and say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to apply all these things that I know about production, but really, you have to know their world. Why are certain shots looking the way they do? What time constraints are they up against? How can I truly take the things that I've learned from film production and media production online and apply it to broadcast media? And it's not until you observe what's going on in the situation, look around at your teammates, seeing what's working for them, and then you can start to become, quote unquote, a game changer. So I guess as we get into this, what are some of the things that we can learn from this application phase of being a multimedia producer, what have you, different types of working professionals in entertainment production?
Well, it sounds like the X factor that you're kind of hitting at, going back to, you're talking about technology with Blackmagic Design, and you're talking about how it's almost like with the iPhone, like you don't buy the first go around of a device. You buy that second or third.
Right.
Early adopters are the ones that always end up with the heartburn, buyer's remorse type of thing. And so, it's one of those things where what you're expressing to me and what it sounds like is what companies gain is experience in the market,
Right.
experience in the field. And so you can kind of take that model with you yourself. When we got started, we couldn't really apply experience because we didn't have it. There's this quote that I've always heard that experience comes the second after you need it. And so it's until you have those bumps and bruises and those bad stories like, oh man, and I can't believe it. I showed up I had my batteries, I had my SD cards, I had my brand new lens, and I forgot I loaned Mike my camera. That kind of
Almost
thing.
had it.
You know what I mean? It's like, until you have those things, you learn, okay, now what I got to do next time is have a checklist, because obviously I have a tendency to lend out equipment and not make sure I have. So that experience it's the best teacher. You can go to school all you want to, but until you get out there in that field and learn from fate itself,
Right.
you're not a pro.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it just kind of goes into, so wars are fought with boots on the ground. It's the people who are out on a daily basis experiencing what's going on. And it's like you said, experience comes the second after you need it, and you thought you had it every second prior to that moment. Right. I think that the application of it is just knowing when to take those mistakes and turn those into not so much your valleys but your peaks. It's almost knowing when to acknowledge. We spoke about observing. It's about observing that I may have made mistakes here. So now that I know this, I'm going to take the mistake that I made here and turn this into a strong point for me. So I will never lend Mike my camera. And not because Mike is irresponsible, but because I've charged my batteries and I went through the whole step, and I also need to make the phone call. Hey Mike, I need that camera back. It's time to I learned from the last time.
Lesson learned.
Exactly. It's applying that knowledge and just kind of going with it. So
I mean, and that's like one of that's the biggest pitfall of being sort of experienced, is that sometimes you can be a little bit complacent because you feel like
Speak on it, bro.
You feel like I've been doing this for a little while. I got it taken care of. I went and scouted my location. You know what I'm saying. I'm good. I'm digging myself. Right. I'm digging myself, and then next thing you know, life throws you that curveball. You just like.
Down goes Frazier.
I'm out. I'm out of the game, and then so you gotta kind of learn from that, and just like you're saying, you gotta make that checklist. You gotta make sure you have everything prepared each and every time, because experience teaches you that you gotta have all that stuff in line, each and every time, and that's how you have to do it. You just gotta keep track,
Yeah.
And going back to what you were saying with, you can somewhat get complacent when you become experienced. That's absolutely true. Not only do you get complacent, but you also get comfortable. The proper way, you got to learn, just like we were talking about, the proper way to observe, the proper way to investigate a situation, the proper way to apply your experience is to really season what the situation is, because we know every situation is unique. To come into a situation that says, I've done this 100 times, and we did this, and we did that, and we did that. And there's two things that's going to happen. Either one, nature itself is going to do something different, throw you a curveball. Or the second, you're going to end up being in a situation where your client says, I know you've done that 100 times before, and I hate when people do that.
Yeah.
So now you got to figure out a new way. You're so dead set in your ways that you don't know how to apply your experience. So sometimes that person can say, I hate doing it that way, and they don't realize, well, they haven't done it with me before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to figure out a way to say, okay, I understand that. You're absolutely right. Let's talk about what are you looking for?
Right.
You do that investigation process all over again. While they're talking, you're starting to pull from that database of knowledge. You see the matrix code because you've seen it 100 times, and you start to say, she thinks this is something different, but this is something I've seen before. I got to figure out a way to tell it to her in a different way and sell her that experience we were talking about earlier that makes her feel like, yes, I want that experience. I want at the end of my event or the end of my wedding to feel that emotion. When I go back to watch that video 10 years from now, I want to feel that moment all over again. And this is the person who can give it to me.
Yeah. It's like you said, it's an experiential thing. It's being able to take the technical merit that you've gained and being able to take the artistic measure that you want to apply to the situation, not to do what it is that you want to do, but rather to do what you think based on those set of experiences, to give the client what it is that they need and what they desire. And those are obviously two different things. But within that, you know, it's like I said, when I was going from the world of freelance multimedia guy, trying to go here and there and really get a variety of shots and, you know, wanting to be handheld and the clients are loving it. And then you're going into the broadcast media world and it's very much more structured, and it's because of those time constraints and because your editor is looking for a particular type of shot, and if it's not there sequentially, then what type of time delay does that cause? And, you know, here I am thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. You know, I'm going to get my floating shot over here. I'm going to do a handheld slide over there. And they get it to the editing desk and they're looking like, Michael, what are you doing?
What is all this?
We wanted the broadcast media stuff that we saw on your demo reel. We didn't want this free floaty thing that might work for a particular type of client. So it's then about adapting and saying, okay, let me apply because I've observed what is necessary here in the broadcast media world, and I've investigated ways of applying what it is that I know how to do to this new situation, and then suddenly you've got something. Because you're this person with a unique background in this other world, and you're able to marry the two, and it's a beautiful thing.
Bro, and you're saying it perfectly. What you're saying, and I got chills because that's great. What you're saying is properly applying experience to a situation yields two things. It yields the ability to adapt, and it builds your ability to be flexible.
Right.
It builds your ability to say, you know what, I know things are going to change. Every time I do this, I've sold this equipment. I've sold $15,000 worth of equipment. We got hot lights, we got LEDs, we're going to fly screens, we're going to do all this stuff. And here's the pre-function agreement. They understand this is what we're going to get. And then they walk in on day one. Oh, those LEDs are horrible. How come I can't get a true red? This is like an orangey color. Well, this is the package you wanted. We can get you some intelligence that'll get that, but it's going to cost this amount of money. Now you got to figure out where you're going to get it from. Yeah. How you going to get it? Because you got 2 hours to get it set up and you don't have any freelancers. Oh, yeah. You know what I mean? It allows you to say, you know what? Experience says, you know what? They're going to change their mind. And because of that, I'm going to have a rigging crew on standby, and I'm going to go ahead and price these lights in advance. Yeah. Because they're going to change their mind, because that red is not a red, and I know in their logo, that true red is what they want.
Yeah. Right.
Mm-hmm. So you have it ready. So they come in and they say, yeah, you have that, you have those orange lights sitting up there on that rig, and say, yeah, well, what we did is we put one intelligent up there. You want to take a look at that real quick? Mm-hmm. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. How did you know? Yeah. You didn't read their mind.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what they want you to do. They're paying you to be clairvoyant. Right. But what you're doing is you're not anticipating their needs as much as you understand that this is the behavior of a client. Mm-hmm. And you have to understand that, just like, I don't want to use an animal expression, but just like a judge has a tendency to have a certain type of behavior when they meet someone even outside of the chamber. Mm-hmm. Just like a lawyer has a tendency, like a construction worker. Everyone has a certain type of tendency, and we're influenced by our work in our personal lives. Mm-hmm. Well, you yourself become influenced by it because you know how clients are. All they want is an experience. They just want to say, I want all this to happen. Give it to you. Right. I don't care how it happens. Just make it happen.
I just want it. Yeah, because I mean, in my world, I work in a conference center. There are, we have return, clients that, frequent us quite often, and you get to know people through experience. You get to know certain people and how they work and their quirks, and it's like, almost invariably, it's like, Miss So and So is gonna, every time she comes in here, she's not gonna know what she wants. Mm-hmm. She's not gonna know, what's needed. So you're already in that mind frame to go ahead and essentially ask her the same questions that you've asked her 1,000 times, because you have that experience. And then when on the day of the event, that ultimately she's gonna at the last minute say, I have 2 singers coming, and I need, they got a track.
Because she loves music.
Oh yeah, because she loves music, right? Yeah, I got 2 singers coming, and they need a track, a background track, and I need 2 wireless microphones. So from working with them in the past, to go ahead and have that ready. You observe, nice. To go ahead and have it ready, on standby. It's like, look, I know she's gonna come in here at the last minute and ask for this, so I'm just gonna, have it anyway. It's like, I got you covered, and they're all good.
It kind of, it gives you that wiggle room, and I think that to add to your list of the two things, the third, and for me personally, I think the most important is it gives you that confidence.
Yeah.
Just knowing that, like we joked about it, but it's just the idea of, I got this. She's coming and she's gonna want to add a singer, and she may want this and that and third. And I've seen this not just from her a few times, but all around. So I'm gonna ask a million different ways the same question, so I can get exactly what I need from her.
Yeah.
But I know that within this, caveat and the questions that I have, one of them is gonna get the answer that I need from her. So I know that I can kind of approach that.
Yeah.
And that's what experience does. I mean, if experience does nothing else, it teaches you that. That mistake that I made. Like if you say I did this 100 times, it's just knowing that I survived 100 mistakes.
Man, it didn't kill me.
Right.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yes, they're gonna be mad at me, but they're gonna need me tomorrow.
Exactly.
And what's great is because we work in a world that's so dominated by technology and tools, new stuff is coming out all the time.
Yeah.
So what might be a problem that is, addressed by 500 ways of creativity today might be addressed by one technological advancement tomorrow. And simple things too. An app on your phone, and all of a sudden you now know what time the sun is going to rise. You now know where it's going to face and how you're going to get your lighting on that particular film shot.
Right.
And so to be able to do those things with these new tools that are emerging and coming along every day, it just makes your job so much easier. And being on top of these trends as they're starting to come along, like I've been able to see certain tools and I'm just like, wow, like even the little things. I'm still amazed by the GoPro camera out there, that you can stick it on anything and you got this, brilliant 2.7K resolution. You've got this nice slow motion that you can do all these awesome shots and aerial video and everything. So, these things, it's not something you have to do, but being aware of some of these emerging technologies, it seems to at least reward those that I've seen who have taken advantage of it.
You see this? This is how we got good.
and you just said something really important just there.
Yeah.
This is how he got good. The most important, I think the ultimate goal of applying experience, while it has all these great unintended consequences of building your confidence, of making you a better asset to your client, of being able to anticipate needs and see the trends in technology as they come and recognize, hey, this can change on the tip of a hat. Let me not get married to this process. Learn it, appreciate it, add it to my toolkit to get better. But the best thing about experience is it teaches what ultimately we're all here to do, and it's live. When you first start out doing freelancing, all you want to do is buy groceries and pay rent. Okay. You're doing this because, listen, I have this skill that I think can get me paid and I can kind of make some money. I can get somewhere and I can take this person out on a date and I can have some fun. But ultimately, it becomes a career somewhere along the way. And where it becomes a career is when you recognize your experience. I've done all of these great things. I see that I'm able to give this service or I'm able to give this joy to this audience in a certain way. I can capitalize on this and make my life richer and not just become a workhorse, but also do it to become a creative person that enriches their life themselves every day. Adapt to your own life. It makes you a better person. And what would make me a better person, I put money on the table, and you guys haven't done anything. So you bet some.
I bet some.
Okay, who's not betting? Oh, then it's your turn. Put this money down. Let's put these cards on and make my life better so I can make some money, bro. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it, baby. You folded. Come on then, bro. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's put 300 in.
300. Huh?
300. 300. Let's go with it. Let's go. How about we just go head up? You want to go head up? Boom, boom, boom. What you want? Burn them, turn them. Boom, 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 boom. Burn it. Boom. Burn it. Boom, baby. Got you. That's a strong pair there.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh, man. No, I got it. That's a strong pair. holla at you. I thought you had a flush there for a second.
No.
But you had to dominate. If that was like a 7 of hearts, I'd been in
You
trouble.
been trouble.
That's good, man. Not too bad for you. I'll give you a little tip, man.
Trouble level.
Don't bet against me no more. That's
Not
your
okay.
tip.
Not